Good evening. My name is Toshua Jarrett. And when given the assignment this semester, or this 8 weeks, in regards to discovering where I thought there was a communication problem within my organization, I had to think for a little while. I work for a nonprofit organization that's been in existence for 34 years. As one of the senior directors, I'm the development director there. I do all the grant writing and fundraising and event planning. I had to think for a few seconds. I wanted to do my proposal and I wanted to do or fix a problem that involved myself. So I thought about maybe two and a half months ago, we had an issue in the workplace where I was writing a grant and I did not disseminate information, deadlines, and such to our director of operations. This individual needed to know what the deadline was because they were submitting the budget and budget narrative, and I needed that information before the submission. Unfortunately, I did not disseminate the deadline and that person went on vacation. I therefore had to fill that gap of providing the budget and budget narrative, which was something out of my expertise. And if I would have communicated with him more effectively, he would have known and completed that task prior to leaving for vacation. So I'm going to use that as my workplace communication problem, and I decided to take this to use the solution in a twofold way. I wanted to create two things that would use different languages and semiotics so that I could target all of my audiences. There are 6 total senior leaders within this organization, so I wanted to make sure that I did it in a twofold so that I could target all 6 of them and their learning capabilities. The first portion that I did was I approached my executive director about this issue, and he completely agreed with the lack of communication that is existent right now between the senior leaders, as including himself as the executive director. He told me to come back with a plan of action, which is what I've been doing the past couple of weeks in regards to creating these solutions to solve this communication problem. The first thing I did was I created an exclusive senior leadership email distribution listing. This was a simple thing. I went to the IT department and had them since they have control over all of our email addresses and our Gmail accounts, I had them create this listing that included all of us senior directors. It's entitled VLP Senior Directors, so that all these individuals have to do, all my coworkers have to do is basically type that in the two, and it sends an email out to all of us. So it's kind of an easier tool for them to communicate with each of us. I did it through the IT department because it was easier. Otherwise, I would have had to have went to each individual director and have them set this up through their contact listing, which would have been a lot of time on their part as well as a lot of time on my part explaining how to do that. Unfortunately, this has only been utilized. It was created on the 25th of July, and since then until now, today, it's only been utilized 4 times. I'm kind of upset about that, disappointed in that, but I think I spoke to my executive director, and we think that if we continue to push it and continue to utilize it ourselves, which is where all the emails are basically coming from, then the senior directors will see the importance of it and see how beneficial it is. So we're going to continue on with that solution and get a feel for it, and hopefully the frequency of them utilizing it will increase. The second part of my plan of action was to write an internal policy that required all senior leaders to meet bi-weekly. I think it's extremely important for us to meet as a group without all of the other coworkers in the mix, to kind of get a feel for what each department is doing, what deadlines are coming up, what those deadlines entail for each other department, if I need a budget from somebody, or if there's a funding gap in the programs, we can communicate that. If I know my executive director is going on vacation or the director of operations is going on vacation, I can kind of make sure that I am cognizant of deadlines and their vacation and sick time. So when they are out, we can easily fill in that gap, and the flow of services is smooth, and we're very transparent internally and externally. when I originally approached my executive director about this, I wanted to have these meetings to be weekly, and he said that would be too redundant. It would be too much for our organization. Right now, the senior directors, there's a lot of meetings that they have weekly, so this would just be a little bit too much. So he suggested that we do bi-weekly, which was what he approved, the policy. So I wrote the policy. It was just a simple sentence stating that the VLP senior directors will be required to meet bi-weekly starting the week of August 15th, 2016. And then I put the purpose of this policy is so that there's accountability, and he can reprimand based off of this policy because it is a written policy. And then I kind of went on the bottom of it, the who, what, when, where, why, so that it gives more of an in-depth overview of what the policy is. I wanted to have this implemented prior to the end of this course, but unfortunately we moved, and my policy got put on the back burner. So this will be implemented starting this week. Our first one will be on Thursday at 2 p.m. I had sent out an email through the exclusive email distribution listing trying to get a feel for what days and times would be good. Only one person emailed me back, so I went to them physically and asked them, and then I did kind of a query to see which days would be best. So that's why we chose Thursdays. I think overall, I feel that I took all the necessary steps to properly increase the communication between senior leaders at my workplace. We're going to go ahead with these two solutions for the next couple of months and see how it falls out. And then my executive director and I will go ahead and discuss if we need to tweak anything or make any adjustments. But overall, I think the project has been successful.